Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me.
The sky was still as Gareth stood at the edge of the encampment, staring into the horizon. His breath was heavy, muscles taut beneath his armor. He could feel light in darkness. It wasn't just a creeping sensation, it was a tangible force, a weight pressing against his very bones. The Orc chieftain had fought countless battles in his lifetime, seen enemies rise and fall. But these a broken bar. This was different. The darkness they faced wasn't born of flesh and blood. It was something ancient, malevolent, and far more dangerous than any foe he'd ever encountered. His fingers flexed around the hilt of his great axe, carved from the bones of a fallen giant, a symbol of his tribe's strength. Yet, even with all their might, Gareth knew the Orcs could not face this threat alone. "Chieftain," the voice came from behind him. And Gareth turned to see Krug, his most trusted warrior. The towering Orc's face was set with determination, though there was a flicker of something else in his eye, as a doubt, perhaps, or fear. "They're here," Krug said, nodding toward the gathering tent. Gareth grunted. The Draenei. The uneasy truce between the two races had held long enough for this alliance to form. But Gareth still felt the sting of past battles. Orcs and Draenei had been enemies for so long, their blood had stained the very earth beneath their feet. Yet now, they were forced to stand together against a common enemy. He followed Krug toward the tent, his boots heavy on the cracked ground. As they approached, he caught sight of the Draenei delegation. Their leader, Zalaura, stood at the center, her staff glowing faintly with light magic. She was the exact opposite of Hema, slender, graceful, her blue skin gleaming in the faint light of their campfires. Her eyes, glowing with the power of the Naru, regarded him with a calm that Gareth found unsettling. "We are ready," Zalaura said as he stepped inside. Her voice was soft but carried an undeniable strength. Gareth crossed his arms over his broad chest, sizing her up. "You may be ready, but my warriors are not so quick to trust your kind, Draenei." Zalaura didn't flinch. "Trust is earned, chieftain, not given." "We both know that." Gareth's lips curled into a snarl, but he bit back his retort. Now was not the time for old grudges. The fate of their people depended on this alliance. "Let's get this over with," he muttered. The tent was filled with the leaders of both races, Orcs and Draenei, each one tense with the weight of what was to come. The darkness had spread rapidly, consuming land and life alike, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. Both the Orcs and Draenei had tried to fight it, but their weapons and magic had proven useless against the unseen force. Now, the only hope lay in the Astral Plane, a realm beyond their world where the ancient Titans had once walked. Gareth knew the legends well. The Titans were creators, shapers of worlds, and their power was said to still linger in the far reaches of the Astral Plane. If they could find even a fragment of that power, they might stand a chance. Zalaura raised her staff, and a soft light filled the room. "We will perform the ritual to open the way to the Astral Plane. Once we enter, there will be no turning back." Gareth grunted. "We don't need to turn back." The ritual began, and Gareth watched as Zalaura and her fellow Draenei chanted in their ancient tongue. The air crackled with energy, and the space around them began to shift and shimmer. The Orcs stood by, silent and wary, their hands on their weapons as the Draenei's magic took hold. Suddenly, the world around them dissolved into light. Gareth felt a pull, as if his very soul was being drawn through a narrow tunnel of stars and darkness. His body felt weightless, floating in the vastness of the Astral Plane. The sensation was disorienting, but Gareth forced himself to focus, his warrior instincts kicking in. When the light faded, they found themselves standing on a floating island, surrounded by a vast, glittering expanse of stars. The ground beneath their feet was smooth, almost glass-like, and in the distance, they could see other islands, some larger, some smaller, all suspended in the endless void. "We've entered the Astral Plane," Zalaura said, her voice barely more than a whisper. She looked around, her eyes wide with wonder. "This is the domain of the Titans," Gareth grunted. "I've seen prettier places." The Orcs fanned out, their weapons at the ready, while the Draenei began scanning the area for signs of the power they sought. The tension between the two groups was palpable. Old rivalries still simmered beneath the surface, despite the gravity of their mission. As they moved across the floating island, Gareth couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He glanced over at Zalaura, who seemed equally uneasy. Her staff glowed brighter as if sensing something unseen. "We're not alone here," she murmured. Gareth tightened his grip on his axe. "Good." I was starting to get bored. Suddenly, a ripple passed through the air, and the ground beneath them trembled. Out of the shadows, figures emerged as celestial beings, their bodies made of shimmering light and energy. They were towering, humanoid forms, but their faces were featureless, their intentions unreadable. The Orcs immediately raised their weapons, ready to fight, but Zalaura stepped forward, her hand raised in a gesture of peace. "Wait," she said softly. "They are the guardians of this place. We must not provoke them." Gareth growled. "If they attack us, I'll cut them down, guardian or not." The beings hovered in the air, watching, waiting. One of them moved forward, its voice a deep, resonant echo. "You seek the power of the Titans." Zalaura nodded. "We do. Our world is in danger. We need their strength to stop the darkness." The celestial being seemed to consider her words for a moment before speaking again. "The power you seek is dangerous. It was abandoned for a reason. If you wish to claim it, you must prove yourselves worthy." Gareth snorted. "We've proven ourselves in more battles than you can count, Starspawn." Zalaura shot him a warning glance before turning back to the Guardian. "What must we do?" The being raised a hand, and suddenly, the island shifted beneath them. A pathway formed, leading to a massive structure in the distance, a towering citadel, glowing with ancient energy. "Enter the citadel," the Guardian said. "There, you will face the trials of the Titans. Only those who succeed may claim the power within." Without another word, the celestial beings disappeared, leaving the Orcs and Draenei alone once more. Gareth glared at the citadel, a low growl rumbling in his throat. "Trials, figures." Zalaura sighed. "This is not going to be easy." Gareth grinned, his tusks glinting in the starlight. "Good. I don't like easy." The group began their march toward the citadel, the path twisting and turning through the astral plane. As they walked, the tension between the Orcs and Draenei began to fade, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. As they approached the citadel, the air grew heavier, charged with energy. Gareth could feel it thrumming through his body, like the beating of a great heart. This was the power they had come for, the power that could save their people, or destroy them all. The massive doors of the citadel swung open as they drew near, revealing a vast hall lined with towering statues of the Titans. Each one was carved from stone, their eyes glowing with an airy light. At the far end of the hall stood a massive altar, pulsing with energy. Gareth stepped forward, his hand on his axe, ready for anything. Zalaura followed, her staff glowing with the light of the Naru. "This is it," she whispered, "the heart of the Titan's power." Before they could reach the altar, the ground trembled once more, and from the shadows, dark creatures began to emerge, twisted, corrupted beings that had once been guardians of the Titans but had fallen to the same darkness that threatened their world. Gareth let out a roar and charged, his axe cleaving through the first creature with ease. The battle was fierce, but the Orcs fought with their usual ferocity, while the Draenei used their light magic to fend off the dark creatures. Together, they pushed forward, inching closer to the altar. But as they fought, Gareth could feel something tugging at him, a dark whisper at the edge of his mind. It was the power of the Titans, calling to him, tempting him with promises of strength beyond anything he had ever known. He gritted his teeth and pushed the voice aside. He couldn't afford to lose focus now. Zalaura, too, seemed affected by the power, her steps faltering as they reached the altar. Her eyes were wide, filled with a strange light, as if she were seeing something far beyond the physical world. Gareth, she murmured. This power-broken bar, it's not what we thought. Gareth swung his axe, cutting down another creature before turning to her. What do you mean? Zalaar shook her head, her voice trembling. It's too much. It's dangerous. If we take hide a broken bar, we could destroy everything. Orcs and Draenei's Astral Journey, Part 2. The silence in the chamber was profound. Gareth's grip tightened on his axe, knuckles whitening as he scanned the room for any sign of immediate danger. The Draenei's warning weighed heavily on him. If this power was as dangerous as Zalaar suggested, it could mean the end of their already tenuous alliance. His gaze shifted to Zalaar, who was visibly shaken. What do you suggest we do, Zalaar? Gareth's voice was low but edged with frustration. We came here for a solution, not to retreat in fear. Zalaar took a deep breath, studying herself. We need to understand this power fully before making any decisions. It might be too dangerous to use, but it could also hold the key to our survival. We must proceed with caution. Gareth nodded, though he was still wary. Very well. Lead the way. They continued deeper into the ancient Titan facility, the walls etched with faded runes that pulsed faintly with an eerie blue light. The air grew colder with each step, the faint hum of dormant machinery filling the silence. As they reached a large chamber, they saw the central structure of their search. An enormous crystalline obelisk, pulsating with a dark, swirling energy. It hovered above a pedestal, surrounded by arcane symbols that seemed to shift and writhe in the dim light. Gareth approached the obelisk cautiously. This is what we came for? Zalaar's eyes were fixed on the obelisk, her expression a mix of awe and dread. Yes, this is the heart of the power we seek. She stepped forward, raising her staff, which glowed brighter in response. The light from the staff seemed to interact with the obelisk's dark energy, creating a swirling vortex of blue and black. The chamber filled with a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through their very bones. Be careful, Zalaar warned. The energy is unstable. If we're not cautious, it could tear us apart. Gareth glanced at his surroundings, noting the ominous signs of instability. And if we don't harness this power, what then? The darkness will consume everything. Zalaar nodded, her resolve firming. We need to stabilize the energy and understand it. Only then can we determine if it's safe to use. Together, they began the process of deciphering the runes and symbols surrounding the obelisk. Zalaar's staff illuminated the arcane inscriptions, revealing a complex pattern that seemed to resonate with the obelisk's energy. Gareth's practical experience with ancient artifacts and machinery proved invaluable as he worked alongside Zalaar, their combined skills slowly bringing some semblance of order to the chaotic power. As they worked, a sudden burst of energy erupted from the obelisk, sending a shock wave through the chamber. The ground trembled, and the air crackled with electric tension. Gareth was thrown backward, crashing into a wall. He struggled to rise, his vision swimming as he saw Zalaar clinging to her staff, her expression one of intense concentration. Zalaar! He roared, trying to get up. She looked up, her eyes wide with alarm. We're losing control. We need to stabilize it now. Gareth stumbled toward her, his body aching. The energy around them seemed to pulse with a life of its own, dark tendrils reaching out as if trying to consume them. With a mighty effort, he grabbed a nearby piece of machinery and used it to brace himself, helping Zalaar focus her staff's light on the obelisk. The intensity of the energy seemed to ebb and flow, and Zalaar's voice rose in a chant, her words imbued with a power that began to counteract the darkness. Gradually, the swirling vortex of energy started to stabilize, the chaotic fluctuations subsiding into a more controlled pattern. With a final burst of light, the obelisk's energy settled into a steady, pulsating rhythm. The chamber fell silent, the oppressive darkness lifting as the obelisk's power became more manageable. Gareth wiped the sweat from his brow, looking over at Zalaar, who was visibly exhausted but triumphant. We did it, he said, his voice rough but filled with relief. Zalaar nodded, though her face was pale. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. We need to fully understand what we've unleashed." As they took a moment to catch their breath, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. The walls began to shift, revealing hidden passages and ancient control rooms that had been concealed for millennia. The Titan facility, it seemed, was not finished revealing its secrets. Gareth and Salar exchanged a look of determined resolve. They had come this far, they could not turn back now. The dark force that threatened their worlds was still out there, and they had only just begun to uncover the means to combat it. Together, they ventured into the newly revealed passages, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey through the astral plane had tested their strength, their trust, and their resolve, but it had also forged a bond between them that neither Orc nor Draenei could have anticipated. As they moved deeper into the heart of the ancient Titan facility, the knowledge they sought, and the power to defeat their common enemy, lay just beyond their reach.